So mainly I got to know his work when I was writing my first book. So I was doing a lot of research, and this was several years ago. I started reading his books, his early books, and those really resonated with me, his early books. And then I also was able to present in Swadeshi Indology 3 about the Natya Shastra and Bharatanatyam. So I came to know about all the other ways in which his works have, influenced people. And I would say the main thing that really resonated with me, I think, is that many people have written about Hinduism, and they've tried to write about Hinduism and defend Hinduism. But his approach, Rajiv Ji's approach, was so different. He came up with a completely new methodology, a new paradigm, a new framework for in which we can see what's going on. And he did a root cause analysis into all these things that had been happening at that time with Hinduism and some of the attacks. And he came up with frameworks like digestion theory and U-turn theory. And it's a completely new school of thought, you know? And that is so important because, there's these disparate attacks, all these attacks on, Hinduism and maybe some aspects of Hinduism, like our culture, our way we do our pujas or our arts, right? But why are they happening? We can't keep on putting out these little fires. We need to understand what's going on behind the scenes. And he came up with this brilliant new methodology for that. So that really resonated with me. So the book that really shaped my journey, and that's going to actually be what my forthcoming book is about, which I'm writing with Rajiv Ji and Infinity Foundation, is Sanskrit Non-Translatables. So that is, again, a completely new school of thought. It's a new framework, and that he has come up with that is so important. Again, it goes to the root cause, It goes to the root cause of why there are so many distortions and digestions and appropriations and attacks on our, Hindu culture in various domains. So here I'm going to do it on Natya Shastra, Indian aesthetics, and Bharatanatyam. So I'm writing a book on the non-translatables in that domain. And the book that he wrote on Sanskrit non-translatables is the major impetus and major inspiration for that. Because if the words that we use, that we have in, in Sanskritam and in our Indian languages, if they are mistranslated or mapped incorrectly to words in English or other languages that don't have words that represent those concrete, like metaphysics and ideas, because every domain in our in the Hindu culture has very concrete baseline theories that has the metaphysics that are encoded in these words. So if we mistranslate things and we use the wrong word, then that has a cascading effect, actually. It's not just that one word got mistranslated, but then the whole idea of what this art is gets misunderstood. And then that opens the door for further distortions and further digestion also. And in fact, for very huge misunderstandings. And sometimes it also affects how the history of the art has been understood. So a lot of that is going to come out in this forthcoming book. I don't want to give it all away, but it's about the history, about distortions, attacks, even on Bharatanatyam and many of our classical arts. So, and the root cause is because we are, for a long time, unfortunately, since the colonial era, we've been mapping Sanskrit words onto English ones or, other languages where these words are not there and these ideas are not there, these principles and these metaphysics. So unfortunately, because we've been doing that, it's kind of built upon that shaky and erroneous foundation. And so when you build upon that, you have all this propagation of this error, and it's cascaded, and it's even resulted in sometimes demonizing, Hindu culture. And so there's a huge effect. So that book, I would say, is so important. That idea, that framework of Sanskrit non-translatables can be applied to, and Rajiv Ji has said this himself, it can be applied to so many domains, within Bharatiya culture. So that's been my major inspiration. I think that intellectual Kshatriya, I think that perfectly, describes him. One of the things that really stood out for me is he does not shy away. He's not afraid of being controversial and bringing out some very uncomfortable situations and truths and realities that are out there right now that most of us, even scholars or people who are in the domain studying these things, especially the how Hinduism is studied and analyzed or portrayed, they have not brought that out. But he has brought that out. It's some uncomfortable truths, some things that are about ourselves, about maybe even Indians and also in other places, how academia is studying us and what the situation is. So you have to get out of your comfort zone. I think that's one of the main things that he has, he's kind of forced people to do. And I think that is so important because many of the things that we've been talking about and that he's talked about, now everyone is starting to talk about, they were kind of, swept under the rug, you know what I mean? And now people are talking about that. So that truly, to me, is an intellectual and a Kshatriya, you go out there and you do something that no one else really wants to tackle and no one else really wants to do. And you do it in a very systematic and robust way, very deep, profound, not just superficially, bringing it up here and there. And it brings it out into the public domain and propagates it and forces people to think and forces people to address it. I think that's just very, very commendable. So I really appreciate, I know Rajiv Ji's background, he's a physicist and computer scientist, and then he, went on to this amazing career in corporate, the corporate world. So I appreciate the STEM type of thinking and analysis he brings to the humanities, to these subjects, I think that's really important and it's missing. It's really missing in many places. So Rajiv Ji's work, I think, has a tremendous appeal for younger people and the youth because of his approach. As I said again, his methodology, right? He's not just saying the old things over and over again, or he's not just saying something and without providing any proof or basis for it. He has that whole school of thought. He has such deep research with so much evidence, so much data, right? So it deeply resonates and appeals to the youth, and it's very different also, right? It's not the usual thing. It's very unique in the way he does it and what he has come up with. So, and we see it all the time. They're also witnessing, these things, the distortions of maybe Hindu culture, Hindu history, and things like that. They go to school, they go outside, they interact in society, especially in the West. So, and also, back in India. So they're seeing it and they're trying to comprehend it because when you're young, I remember when you're a teenager, you're always trying to find your identity. You're trying to figure out what your identity is and how you fit in this world and how your culture fits in this world, how you're civilizationally speaking, how you relate to other people, what is your part in this world. And I think he has really done so much for that understanding for the youth, to give them that he's not telling them, it's not an indoctrination. He's giving them that, planting that, seed for them to go out and find out themselves and to question. And, I think that is so important. One thing I want to mention is that, unfortunately, whether we know it or not, and I think most people don't realize it, a lot of people have internalized a lot of the Western frameworks, a lot of frameworks like postmodernism, especially Marxism and feminism, these kind of very extreme leftist frameworks have been internalized and have been unfortunately applied to our classical arts. to the Hindu classical arts like Bharatanatyam or even Carnatic music, and people don't even realize maybe they don't even know what Marxism is or postmodernism or feminism. But these leftist frameworks, they use that to analyze and even sometimes criticize our classical dances. And unfortunately, many of them are also, Indian dancers, Indian origin dancers, and Indian, academia, definitely academia here and in India as well. This is so important that in the future, like currently and in the future, what has to happen is the school of thought that Rajiv Ji has brought out. That needs to be internalized, where we bring our Bharatiya worldview, the Hindu worldview, not the Marxist worldview or the feminist worldview or the postmodernist worldview. That needs to come out. And I think that's happening slowly. And that's my hope that that comes out and people see why, Bharatanatyam, which is a sacred sadhana, it's a sadhana. It's not just a performing art. It's not for entertainment. It's not merely that, though there is very high artistic technical value, a very high caliber, and an aesthetics metaphysical framework behind it from the Natya Shastra, starting from the Natya Shastra onwards, So that idea, that framework must be internalized. And this Sanskrit non-translatables is one way, is a huge way, I think, a doorway into doing that. I want to thank Rajiv Ji and the Infinity Foundation for all the work they've done. I know, it's been a long journey and may continue for a very long time, and it's been very hard, with everything that he's been attacked, and it's not been easy. But that's why it's so worth it, and it's so substantive and cogent, everything that he's done. And I know he's mentioned he has like 20 more books that he wants to release. I hope all those books get released and all the works that he wants to do get, accomplished. And he continues to elucidate and enlighten us and, the future generations as well.